everybody, I'm Jeff Gibby. Thanks for watching today's event. Thanks for coming. It's good to see you. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the turtle trading method. We've brought in a special guest, Kevin Nelson, who I'll tell you about right after this legal disclaimer.
Your future is
Hold on a sec. All right. Today's demonstration is designed to instruct you on using MetaStock and the accompanying software plugins. It is not a recommendation to buy or sell, but rather are guidelines to interpreting and using specific indicators and features within the software. The information, software, and techniques presented today should only be used by investors who are aware of the risk inherent in trading. MetaStock and its employees shall have no liability for any investment decisions based on the use of the software, trading strategies, or any information provided in connection with the company. MetaStock and its employees do not endorse the purchase of any security, nor is it paid for the promotion of a security. No information contained in the presentation should be construed as investment advice or the solicitation to buy a security. So it's good to see you. You should be able to hear me. Hello, Vincenzo. If you're joining us, let me know where you're from. Say hi in the comments. Like I said, it's great to see you. We do have a special
Take advantage of the
we do have a special guest with us today, Kevin. Kevin actually was sales manager when I started. He actually hired me into the role. Has a lot of very, very good experience in terms of managing difficult people. Me, mostly. I just kidding. He's got a lot of experience using MetaStock, training on MetaStock. He runs a service. It's called LearnMetaStock.com now. And it's actually a very, very good resource. We use it internally to help us train our employees. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get Kevin started. Kevin, how are you doing today?
Good, thanks, Jeff. I appreciate it.
Of course. I'm gonna make you the presenter right now. Here comes.
All right. And let's see here. Hang on for just, whoops. Didn't want to do that one. Let's try this one. How about that? How's that?
I can see LearnMetaStock.com.
Hey, Jeff, before we get started here, I don't know if you heard or not, but did you hear about that kidnapping that we had here at the local grade school?
No, that's terrible.
Yeah, but it was a good ending. They woke him up.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Come on. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is Jeff always has dad jokes, so I figured I had to contribute something there. Greg, I hope you like that one.
He's speechless.
Yeah.
That was great. Thanks for sharing.
All right. It's all you. And you can go for a whole hour with us if you want.
All right. Very good. Well, thanks again. As Jeff was saying, I used to work for MetaStock, worked for him for a number of years. And in 2008, I left the company to start this company here at LearnMetaStock.com. And what we do at LearnMetaStock.com is we just train people like yourselves on how to get more out of their MetaStock program. Whether you're just getting started, you want to learn more about formula writing, systems, I mean, you name it, we've got all kinds of training available for you. So our website is up at LearnMetaStock.com. And what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and go through our presentation first. And then later on at the end of the presentation, I'll walk you through our website. I'll just show you a few different things about it there. So let me go ahead and jump over here and talk about what we're going to be doing today. Is we're going to be covering a system called the Turtle Trading System. And I don't know if many people have heard about this before or not, but it's actually been around for a really long time. In fact, it was originally developed back in the early 80s. And the whole idea here is that they trained a number of people of how to trade a particular system. And they gave these traders a nickname and they called them the Turtles. And the Turtles, they're one of the original members. His name is Curtis Faith. And if you'd like to learn more about the system, I'd highly recommend go up and take a look, take a browse through the internet there. You'll find a number of different books on it. And Curtis also wrote a PDF that he's published up on the internet that you can download for free that'll give you the real details of the system as well. So a couple different ways to learn more about it. But what I'll do today is I'll just kind of give you an overview of it and not get into all the details and so forth, but hopefully give you an idea of how this whole system worked. The original system itself was created by two gentlemen, two futures traders, actually, Richard Dennis and Bill Eckhart. And back in the early 80s, what they had a discussion, they were trying to figure out if traders are born and or could they be made or taught. And to help answer this question, what they decided to do is they decided to run an experiment. And they ran an experiment by actually placing an ad in the paper asking for people who are interested in learning how to trade, no prior experience, required. And they received over 1,000 applicants of people that were interested in doing this. And what they were going to do is they're going to provide them with all the training, the capital, the computers, I mean, everything that they needed. And again, out of those 1,000, they chose 23. Now, these 23, again, were what they termed or called the turtles. Now, the idea behind this system here is in order to really kind of answer the questions of whether or not this could work or not, they asked them to follow the instructions of how to trade these systems to the T. In other words, meaning that there's no second guessing whatsoever. And they're given 2 different systems of trade, so they really weren't given many options on what or how to trade. But again, like I say, the biggest thing was that they had to follow these exactly. No second guessing at all. Now, the different types of systems or the markets that they could trade, they did have some options here. Since the original 2 traders, Richard and Bill, were both futures traders, they set up this system to be traded on either coffee, cocoa, gold, treasuries, silver, and the turtles actually had their choice of what they wanted to trade. And then the other thing that they had a choice on was the system. They were given 2 choices of 2 different systems. One was a 20 and then the other one was a 55-day breakout. And the idea behind these systems were actually very straightforward. So for example, in the 20-day breakout, the idea is that this is going to be a momentum type of system. And what they would do for a 20-day breakout is that if they were looking to be bullish, they had to identify, for example, if the prices were breaking above a recent 20-day high, and if they were and met the other criteria, then they could enter into a long contract. And vice versa, they could also use, for example, like a 55-day breakout as well. Now, if they were trading to the short side, then they would look at a 20-day low and a 55-day low and so forth. Now, there was a couple different things about this system, though, that added a little bit to the complexity of it. And one of the things is that in order to take a trade, the previous trade had to be unprofitable, which is a pretty interesting take. Most people, of course, they want to be right every single time, and they're looking for winner after winner after winner. But this system, again, the only time that the turtles were allowed to place a trade is if the previous trade was unprofitable. So let's say, for example, that the turtle was interested in taking a trade on a system. The prices broke through a 20-day high. And if the previous trade was profitable, they were instructed not to take that trade, but instead to monitor it. And by monitoring it, they'd keep an eye on it, and then they would place or watch it on a 55-day breakout system. And the idea is that if the prices broke above the 55-day high, then they were allowed to take or basically place a position into that trade. Now, in addition to that, these trades are also based on volatility, meaning that if the markets were extremely volatile or what they're trading was extremely volatile, they were instructed to take smaller positions. And if the trades were less volatile, then they were instructed to take larger positions. And then in addition to that, they also adjusted the trade size based on what was happening. So if they got into the trade and it was profitable, they actually added or pyramided to that position. And then they would start taking away at certain points as well. And in order to adjust this or basically control their risk, they had a couple different risk targets. And number one of the risk targets is that if they hit a 2% maximum risk or hit a 2% stop, and they lost 2% of that particular trade, then they were instructed to get out. No questions asked, just get out at that point. But in addition to the 2% loss, they also had an out based off of either the highs or the lows, meaning that if the prices reversed and went through, for example, like a lower band on the long trade, they would be instructed to get out then. And one more stop, and that is using what's called the ATR or the average true range. So the nice thing about this system here, this turtle system, is that you've already got it inside of your MetaStock program. So my idea here is I want to show you what you have, how to work with it, how to interpret it, and so forth. And I also want to show you the different things that I've created to help the Learn MetaStock subscribers there as well. So let me go ahead and jump over here to a program, and we'll open up, for example, let's go ahead and open up a chart here, the SPY, put in the symbol of just SPY. And what you're going to do to get started here, you can open up any type of chart. This is just a daily chart, and it can be done on any type of time frame that you want. But if you go to your indicator quick list and you just type in the word turtle, for example, this is going to show you the different ones that are available. And what you'll find is you'll find this one right here, which is called the Turtle Trader Bands by MetaStock. So just drag that directly on top of your price bars. And what'll happen then is you're going to get this dialog that's going to show you, for example, or ask you what type of trade you're interested in placing. For example, are you interested in going long and or short? So if you're interested in going long, you want to put a 1 in this first box. If you want to look for shorts, you're going to place a 2. Then the look back period is going to be set at 20. So let's go ahead and set this up. We'll click on OK. And then what's important with this dialog here is you want to make sure and merge it with your price scale wherever it is. Now in my case over here on the right hand side, I got my price scale over here on the right, or the y-axis on the chart. And so I want to make sure and merge this with the scale on the right. So I'll click on OK. And that's really important that whenever you place these types of indicators on your chart, they have to be merged with the price scale in order for them to plot correctly. Otherwise, if you don't, what'll happen is they'll kind of float around, and depending on how you move the chart, the lines actually will take different places or basically show up different places on your chart. Now, the idea here behind this system, again, this is a momentum type of trading strategy. And the idea is that if the prices break, for example, above this upper band, this could potentially be considered to be a long position. So this upper band here, this represents at the highest the prices have been over the last 20 bars. So for example, like if I hover directly over it, you'll see I've got a value 1 and a value 2. So the value 1 represents the value of your upper band. So in this case, it's 565.16. And so if I go back here, you can see that that's going to be the high of this price bar right here of 565.16. So the lower band now, when you're looking for long positions by default, the upper band again will be 20 periods and the lower band is going to represent 10 period lows. So again, this lower band is going to be the lowest that the prices have been over the last 10 bars. So the idea here is that if you're in a long position, you're looking at this upper band to possibly enter into a trade, and then to look at the lower band to possibly exit. Now, to help you kind of determine where the different signals are on this chart, you've also got an expert advisor available as well. So if you click on the expert advisor icon up here at the top, you can scroll down to the bottom of your list here and you'll find an expert here called the Turtle Trader Hybrid by MetaStock. So what you do is highlight this one, click on the edit button over here on the right hand side, and then what I want you to do is go over here to this tab right here, which is called the symbols tab. And this is going to show you, for example, like the up and down arrows and the stops and so forth. So uncheck everything and then choose just buy and then sell. So I just have those two selected. We'll click on OK, click on attach, and then click on close. All right, so now what we're looking at here, let me kind of really zoom in here so we can really see this here a little bit better. But you'll see here, for example, like where the prices went above this upper band right here, you'll see you have an upward pointing buy arrow. And then you'll see the prices kind of follow along the band. They actually trade below the band right here. Then you have another buy signal. They went above the band, they went underneath it, went above it, again, they got another buy signal. So this is one thing that you'll see when you plot the expert here on your chart, is that you'll see multiple buy signals, for example, in the long position. And the way that this works is that if you get a buy signal with the prices breaking above that upper band, and then the bars trade below the upper band and then trade back up through it again, that's going to trigger another buy signal. So you could look at that as a possible, possible late entry into the trade. You could look at it as a possible, way to possibly manage your trade or your position size. So a lot of different ways to kind of think about that. Now, as the prices move, for example, like in this case, they move upward. And then what happened is we had a correction right here where the prices then traded down below this lower band. And here you'll see we've got a circle with the number 10 in it. That represents that the prices traded down below this lower band, which is a 10 period low, okay? Now, so what you're gonna see by just placing the buy and sells here, those are the two different signals that you'll see on your chart. Now you could do the same thing for, excuse me, for the short side, where it'll show the down signals where the prices are breaking down below it and so forth. So hold on for just one sec. So what you want to do is that if you're interested in possibly going short, what you want to do is you want to double click on the bands and then choose your band type to be number 2, click on OK. And then by doing that, what that does now is that changes or reverses the roles of the bands. Now this lower band is looking at 20 period lows, or the lowest that the price has been over the last 20 bars. And then your stop is now set at a 10 period high. Okay, so if you want to see those signals, again, we'll go back into our expert and we'll scroll down the bottom and we'll select our turtle and then click on the edit button. And to see that, for example, we'll actually go to the short, excuse me, and then choose cover and click on OK. Click on close, and then that'll place those signals there on your chart there as well. So now you can see that this broke down below that lower band, giving us a sell signal. The price is traded above the upper band, traded back down through it to give you another sell signal. And then if you're using this upper band as a stop, this is where it would have possibly recommended that you get out at that point. All right, so let's go back into it again. I'm going to go ahead and modify it, and I'm going to change it back to long positions. Click on there, and then we'll go back into our expert, and we'll scroll back down to the very bottom here. And we'll grab the turtle system. I'll click on the edit button. And again, I'll go to the buy and then the sell. Okay. So that'll give us those two signals here again as well. All right. So now we just got our buy and sell signals. So now a third thing that I want to add to it is, again, I'll go back down to it. I'll click on the turtle system, click on the edit button. And this time I'm going to add, for example, the sell stop right there. Sorry, kind of lost my train of thought there. We'll click on OK and then click on close. And now what you'll see here is that you're going to see some other signals here on your chart that are going to have the word stop inside of a little stop sign there. And you'll see, like on this one right here, for example, you see how the price is not violating that lower line. And the question is well, why are you getting a stop there? And the answer is because, as I was explaining before, another type of stop that they use was the ATR, or the average true range. Now, to see the average true range indicator on your chart, to help you out, I created an indicator that you can plot directly on it. Now, inside your indicator quick list, if you download any of the formulas from Learn MetaStock, you can find them by just typing LMS, and that'll bring you down to the group of indicators that I've created. So if you scroll down this list here and look for this one right here, which is called the turtle sell stop, you can drag this directly on top of the price bars. I'll just click on OK. And again, what's really important is that we merge it with a scale to make sure that it's plotted correctly. So again, we'll go ahead and click on the OK button there. Now in this situation here, this blue line here, we'll kind of zoom out here just so we can see this, but this is the average true range here. So if you were looking at a long position, you could look at possibly exiting out of a long position when the prices either trade down below this ATR, or average true range, or the prices trade down below this lower band. And you can see, for example, that that's actually what happened right here. You can see the prices traded down below that lower band, and you have that signal called 10 right there. This one, we have a stop because it traded below the ATR, and this one we have a stop because, again, it traded below the ATR. So a couple different ways that you can exit out of the trades that are already built directly into your system. So then the question might become is like, okay, well, I get it. It's pretty straightforward. This is a momentum type of system that if the prices are trading up, I basically want to look for long positions. If the prices are heading downward, I want to possibly look for short positions. So the next question is well, how did the system do on historical data, for example? And the nice thing is, again, there's a system test that's already built into your MetaStock program that you can access. So if you scroll down again to the very bottom of your system test down here, you'll find a system called the Turtle Trader Hybrid by MetaStock. So we'll go ahead and select this system. And to test it, we'll test it going long only. We'll use it going backward over the last 1,250 records. which on end of day data, you can roughly figure about 250 trading days in a year. So that's going to give you about 5 years of historical data. I'm going to go ahead and test it on daily data, but again, you can test on any time frame that you want, but I'm going to go ahead and run it on daily data. And for the trade options, let's go through this quickly just so I can show you how I've got this set up. But underneath the account here, you'll see that I've got a points only test selected. So this is just going to return back a raw number of points that were gained or lost in the system test. So for example, like if you buy it at 50, it goes to 60, a points only test is going to come back and say you made 10 points. Okay, it's not going to factor in any type of dollar figure or anything else. And I actually like running it that way initially when I'm looking through the different trading strategies. And the reason being, it's really easy to compare systems against each other. So otherwise, if you choose, for example, to trade a dollar figure, then it gets a little bit murkier, because then you can possibly add interest rates into it, margin, and so forth, and that becomes a little bit more difficult to compare the results against each other. So for that reason, I just use a points only test. And then for my trade execution here, I've got everything to trade at the opening price with a 1 period delay. So what this is going to do, this is going to simulate that if I get a signal on Wednesday, this is going to simulate that I got into the trade at the opening on Thursday. So go ahead and click on OK. We'll put in the symbol that we want to test it on. I'll go ahead and put in the SPY, for example. And we'll go ahead and click on my start system test, and then that'll begin the process. Hang on for 1 second. There we go. Now, when it's finished, if you go ahead and if you click somewhere else in your chart there and that little dialog disappeared, if you go back to your system test, you'll notice that it'll have an R inside of a set of brackets. That means that there's a report available for it that you can right-click directly on it. You can click on report, and you can bring up the report that you just ran. So I'll go ahead and select that and click on view, and that'll bring up that report. All right, so now what we've got here is we've got the report here based off of this turtle system. You can see that this generated a little over 91 points, and then the question, of course, well, is that good? Is that bad? Well, initially, what I generally kind of first look at is the buy and hold. This buy and hold means that if I would have loaded or basically bought the security on the very first bar of the chart that I loaded and just hung on to it, I'd be up 279 points. But if I would have traded the system, I'd be up 91 points. And so then it's like, well, hold it. Wow, I saw some pretty big moves there. I mean, how come this thing didn't do better than that? Well, to kind of figure this out, we have to go through a number of these different fields inside the system tester or this report. And one thing I always recommend that you do is before you really come to any conclusions, make sure that you go through some of the more important fields, because a lot of times that might change a little bit about how you look at the results. So for example, like here, in order to generate these 91 points, it traded 34 times over the last 5 years. It had 15 winning trades and it had 19 losing trades. So it had more losers than winners. The average profit was 13.5 points and the average loss was 5.8 points. Now this ratio right here, where your average winner is substantially larger than your average loser, this is actually a really important factor right here when taking a look at trading system results. I highly recommend is that when you're looking at different types of systems, you want your average winner to be substantially larger than your average loser. And if it is, you can be wrong more often than you're right and still make very good money with that trading strategy. But on the other side of the coin, if your average profit becomes or is about the same size or level as your average loss, or it actually dips down below that, statistically, if you trade a system like that long enough, it will wipe out your account. So you need to be very, very careful with that. So the other thing I like to look at here as I kind of scroll down here is this number right here is how much I'm actually in or out of the market. So here you can see that you're out of the market here 603 bars. What does that exactly mean? Well, if we go back up here at the top, you'll notice that we tested 1,250 bars. So that means we were out of the market half that time. So in other words, we generated 91 points, and that sounded really bad, but we were only in the market 2.5 years. But in order to generate 279 points, we had to be fully invested for the full 5 years. So it still doesn't make or beat the buy and hold, but it's better. It's actually much better than what you originally might think by just looking at this number by itself. But probably one of the most important things you can do is down here at the bottom. If you click on the plot on chart there, what this will do is this will give you the actual buy and sell signals on your chart, and you can verify that this thing is buying and selling exactly where it should be buying and selling. Now, we've got a lot of signals here on our chart. So one way that we can clean this up is that we can go ahead and right click on our chart, go to the expert advisor, and then detach it. And that'll get rid of the expert advisor. And then I'm going to go ahead and also get rid of our ATR line, just so we can kind of concentrate on the actual signals by themselves. So now if we look at this signal right here, for example, you'll see that we got in on this bar. And if you hover directly over this number here, this will tell you the actual price that you entered in at, which in this case is 571.01. If you hover over the bar itself, you'll see that the opening price is 571.01. So that's perfect. That's exactly what we want. We want it to enter in at the opening price, and then vice versa for an exit. We want to take a look at that, and you'll see that it got out at 574.41. We look at that, you see the opening is where is that? Oh, I'm sorry. This one got out at 574.41. And in this case, if you look at the value of this red line, that's actually giving you the value of the stop. So that means that it got out right at that level of the stop itself. So that's good. That's actually what we'd like to see, because the whole idea here is by trading off these bands, if I know what the upper band is and the lower band is, I know exactly where to place my entry. I know exactly where to place my stop. So now, but taking a closer look at this entry right here, you'll notice that this bar here, for example, on September 17th, it traded above that upper band, but the system tester didn't get in until 2 bars after that point. So then the question is, well, hold it, what happened there? How come this one got in so late? Well, maybe we can make a change to that. So one thing we can do is we can go back into our system tester, and then underneath our trade options here, we could go underneath the trade execution tab here, and we can change this delay. So I'll go ahead and change it from a value of 1 to a value of 0, and then click on OK. Now I'll go back up here, I'll put in the symbol of SPY, and then we'll rerun this system test, and we'll see what kind of change that made to it. So when it's finished, we'll click on View Report. And now you can see our profits went up a little bit. We're up at a little over 102 points. Again, we had a few more trades here at 38. We had 16 winning trades. We had 22 losing trades. The average profit was 12.8. The average loss is 4.6. And again, we're out of the market over 650 bars. So we'll click on our plot on chart, and then we'll close these dialogues down and take a look at these results. Now, if we take again look at this signal right here, now you'll see that the way that we set up the system tester originally was that if we got the buy signal on Wednesday again, we wanted to simulate that we got in at the opening of the next day. So in this case, for example, now you'll see that if I hover over that, you'll see that it entered in at a price of 563.74. And if I hover over that bar, you'll see the opening price is 563.74. So that's perfect with what we originally wanted this thing, or how we wanted this thing to test it. So that actually worked out a little bit better. But then the next question is like, well, hold it. If I know what my upper band is, and I'm looking to be long at this point, why not get in as soon as the price breaks above that upper band? Well, to do that, you'll see again in the system tester, I already set the delay to 0, so I can't go back any further. So for that reason, I created some different system tests to help us kind of answer those types of questions. So to do that, let's go into our system tester. And I'll go ahead and unselect that one. And inside our search dialog here, I'm going to go ahead and just type LMS for Learn MetaStock, and that'll bring up my Learn MetaStock formulas I've got in here. And down here at the bottom, you'll see I've got 4 different turtle trading systems here. I've got the turtle trader number 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the first one we're going to take a look at is this turtle trader number 1, and this is going to enter and exit directly off of the bands. So we'll go ahead and put in our symbol SPY, click on Start System Test, and then we'll take a look at those results. All right, so now our profits now have moved up to 168, over 168 points. We have 33 total trades, 19 winners and 14 losers. So now we have more winners than losers. And again, we have a nice average profit of 12.6 as opposed to 5, a little over 5 on a losing trade. If we scroll down here a little bit, we are out of the market 574 bars. So again, almost half the time. So we could take this number, and in theory, we generated this number in about 2.5 years. But in order to generate the 279, we had to be fully invested for 5 years. So again, we'll click on our plot on chart and then take a look at these results. So we'll go ahead and close this down, close this down. And now if you look at how these signals are placed, you'll see that this is now entering in exactly when the prices trade above that upper band, for example. So let me really kind of zoom in here so you can see this. So if I hover over that, you'll see that this actually entered in at a price of 564.20. So if I hover over the band itself, you'll see that that's what the value of the band is 564.20. So once we actually know, again, the whole idea here is that if I know what the upper band is, I could theoretically place a buy stop with my broker, and I'd know exactly what price that I would enter into the market, right? So for example, I could get in at that point, and then I also know the value of this lower band. So if I scroll over here, I know this lower band in this case, for example, it has a value of 574.41. So, and if you hover over that, you'll see that's exactly the price that you exited out at. See that? All right. So by doing that, again, like I say, that helped out quite a bit. But then a lot of times when I'm working through these different systems, I've got a lot of different questions and I've got a lot of different ways that I want to try this. And again, this is one of the advantages of going with Learn MetaStock, because this is the kind of stuff we do is we go into systems like this and we just try to see if we can maybe make them a little bit better or show you easier or another way to use them. So for example, I'll go back into our system tester, and then the next question I had is, well, what if we just placed on or actually got out of the trades based strictly off of just the average true range? Meaning that if I got in based off the upper band, what if we just get out based off the average true range? So let's try that idea. I'll put the SPY in again as a symbol. I'll click on my Start System Test. And again, when it's finished, we'll take a look at the report. Okay, so now based off the average true range or exiting off the average true range, you'll see our profits drop back down. So we take a look at the actual trades themselves. Now we're at 17 winners, 20 losers. The average profit, average loss is again about the same, and we're out of the market about the same amount of time as well. So just to check it, we can click on the plot on chart and take a look at those results. All right. Now, in order to see that one, we'll go back up here to the turtle sell stop indicator right here, and I'll drag that on top of our price bars. Click on OK. And again, merge it with a scale and click on OK. All right, so now what's happening here is that when we get into a trade, it's not going to look at a lower band, it's only going to look at the average true range. So if I kind of scroll back here in time here a little bit, let's see if we can find some signals here where it's a little clear about, okay, so here's one right here. For example, this might be a pretty good example that this one got out at a price of 516.10. So if I hover over this blue line, you'll see that that's what the value of the ATR is. So in other words, it's not looking at the value of the lower band, it's looking at the value of the ATR in order to exit. So taking that idea of entering when it goes above the upper band and then exiting when it crosses the ATR, it actually didn't improve my results. So then I was like, well, what if I actually got out at the higher point of the ATR or the lower band, meaning that if I'm in a winning trade, I want to get out at the higher point. And let's see how that works. So to do that, we'll go back into our system tester, We'll go down to number 3 here, and this one will exit again based off the ATR or the lower band, whichever one is higher. So again, I'll put in my symbol and click on my start system test. So we'll go ahead and run that and take a look at our report. Okay, so now what's interesting about this one is getting out at the higher of those 2 items. And you can see that it improved the results, but it still didn't beat the result of just getting out on the lower band. We got out at, or we generated 147 points. Again, we had more winners than losers. The average profit to average loss, again, is a nice ratio. And we're out of the market roughly about half the time as well. So we'll click on our plot on chart and just take a quick look at some of the signals. And here again, like for example, here's an exit signal. If we hover directly over it, you'll see it got out at 516.10 because again, that was the higher item between those 2. And if we go back over here, for example, and you see like this one got out at 524.72. That's because the value of this red line at that point is 524.72. It got out at the higher point there. See that? So what's interesting about that one again is that my thought process was like, well, I'm going to get out at a higher price and it's going to be better overall. But what actually ended up happening was the more profitable one was just getting out based off of the lower band. So then that led me to one more question, and that is, well, maybe I should really just look at the values of these bands themselves and try to figure out what length band I really should be using. I know the default is 20 and 10, for example, but what if I change them to other lengths? So to help answer that question, I created a 4th system test, which I called the Turtle Trader number 4, and this one is going to use optimization. So I'm going to go ahead and put in our symbol SPY. We'll start this one. We'll click on our start system test and begin this process. Now this one, as you can see, is going to run through 250 different combinations or 250 different optimizations. Now, if you're not familiar with what optimization is, optimization gives you the ability to say, hey, I want you to test this band system, but I don't know if 20 periods for the upper band is the right length. Instead, I want you to test anywhere from a 2-period band to say a 100-period band or 50 or whatever in increments of 2. So I want you to test a 2, 4, 6, 8, all the way up to 50 or 100, for example. And then same thing for the lower band. I don't know if 10 periods is the right length for the lower band, so I want you to test a whole bunch of them there. So once you run an optimization like that and you click on the report, you should see something like this. Now, what this is showing you, the test results of 100 of the most profitable system tests that you just ran. Now, keep in mind, I just ran through 250 combinations, but one thing to remember is that when you run a system optimization MetaStock, the most tests that the program will keep is 100 of the most profitable. So we're looking at 100 of the most profitable system tests. And then the question is, well, there's obviously no losers in this one. Everything was profitable. Does that mean every combination is profitable? Not necessarily. And that is, again, because we're only looking at the top 100. So there's a very high likelihood, I'd be shocked if there weren't, but there's a very high likelihood that, again, some combinations are unprofitable, but again, we're looking at the most profitable ones here. Now, what we can do here is once you look at a report like this is that you can sort on these results. So for example, most people want to just immediately just sort on the most profitable. So they want to sort on this column and take a look at this. And here you can see that the top combination generated almost 300 points. It traded 82 times. It had 41 winners, 41 losers, and the average profit was 1.86. Now, what does that mean? That means that's showing you the ratio between your average profit to your average loss. So in other words, if for every point that you lost on a losing trade, you only made 1.86 points on a winning trade. So this is that ratio I was talking about before, is that when you're looking at systems, I think it's extremely important that you find systems that are giving you a 2 or higher type of ratio in your average profit to average loss. The whole idea here is that we don't know what future markets hold. But if we do this objectively as possible, and we test this over different types of markets, good markets, bad markets, sideways, whatever, and our system test holds up in those different types of markets, and our average profit is substantially larger than our average loser, if that kind of ratio holds up in a real market, again, we can be wrong more often than we're right and make very good money with that trading strategy. But if that number starts to drop down, that's where you're going to run into problems. Now, to figure out the length of the bands that this one used is just expand these last two columns here. And here you can see it used a combination of 2 and 6, which is a world of difference in what I tested on initially. So if I kind of go down through this average profit, average loss, you'll see that like this one right here is 2.71. So that's a much better ratio. And then right underneath that, if you look at this one actually shows 22 total trades with 15 winning trades and 7 losing trades. Again, better than a 2-to-1 ratio. And the length of the bands that this one used is 10 and then 18. So the whole idea behind optimization, the thing you have to be very, very careful of is that we're going backward in time, and we're taking a trading strategy and we're testing it on this historical data set, and we're kind of sifting through the results and trying to figure out what was the best combination. So just be careful with it, because a lot of times people will just kind of gravitate to the most profitable ones. And what will happen here is that if you're testing something and it did really well on historical data, there's literally no guarantee that it's going to do that well on future data, right? Because we know these markets are constantly changing. But one thing that we can do is we can go back and we can test it under a lot of different scenarios. Again, good markets, bad markets, flash crashes, COVID markets. I mean, throw what you can at it. And then depending on how it comes out, hopefully that'll give you that much, that much more confidence in your system going forward. So just keep that in mind. All right, so let's say, for example, that we decide after going through this that we want to use a combination like this, 10 and 18. Well, to do that, what we could do then at that point is then we could go back to our chart, for example, and let's go ahead and use 10 and 18 on our chart. But what you'll notice is that when you open up or double click on these bands, you only have a choice of actually adjusting, for example, the top or lower band by itself. So instead, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and remove these bands, and I'll remove all these buy and sell signals. And a quick way to do that, by the way, is just click on the edit and then choose delete all. So that's edit, delete all. And then inside of this dialog here, you can choose what you want to remove. So I'm going to go ahead and tell it to remove the symbols, click on OK, and that'll get rid of all that. Now, to place the bands, any length band that you want on your chart, then, for example, if you go back up here to your indicator quick list and go down through your Learn MetaStock formulas here, look for this one right here called the Turtle Bands Adjustable. Drag that directly on top of your price bars. And now you'll be able to place whatever length bands that you want on here. So for example, if you want the upper band at 10 and the lower band at 18, you can set that, click on OK, merge it with your scale, and it'll plot those bands directly on there for you. So again, you can use this on any type of security you want, any time frame that you want. So if you're a real-time trader and you want to trade momentum types of trades like this, this is exactly the kind of stuff that you can do. Now, another thing that you can do as well, and this one I did just very quickly, but you can also put in or create an expert advisor to help you with this as well. So say, for example, like in this expert advisor, if you scroll down again or do a search on LMS, you'll find, for example, that I created another one just called the Turtle System. If you click on the edit button, go to the symbols tab here, I'll go ahead and unselect everything and just choose, for example, like a long signal and then a long exit, click on OK. Oh, I'm sorry, let me go back into that, sorry, my bad. If we go into the long signal, double click on it, you can adjust the bands here as well. So for example, like if I want the upper band to be 10 and I want the lower band to be 18, I could set that, we'll click on OK, and then do the same thing for the exit. So I'll make the upper band 10, the lower band 18, and click on OK, and click on Attach. And what that'll do, of course, is that'll actually give you the signals there as the prices trade above the upper band and, for example, where they violate the lower band there for you. And again, you can adjust it to any length you want. Now, one last thing I created as well is a scan for it as well, or an exploration. So again, I'll do my search on LMS and scroll down to the bottom, and this is the turtle band exploration. So we'll go ahead and open this up. And here, this is what it's going to do. It's going to give you the different securities that are meeting the criteria you're looking for, or again, over whatever length bands that you want. So if you want to set your upper band, this first column right here, set that number 20 to any length you want, set your lower band to any length you want, and then just run your scan. So I'll just leave it at 20 and 10 for this example. I'll tell it to run over the NASDAQ 100 and running over the last 1,250 records, and we'll go ahead and start our exploration real quick. All right. So this is going to run through the NASDAQ 100, and it will give us a feedback on all the securities or possibly any securities that are meeting the criteria we're looking for. All right. Now, again, you can adjust it to whatever length that you want, but I just go ahead and kept it at the default. Now, when you do that, you'll get a report like this, and you'll see that, for example, we've got a number of columns of data. We've got the closing price. We have a column called upper, lower, volume, and then a volume percent change. So for example, if you click on any of the column headings, you can sort the data and very quickly find any securities are breaking out of the upper band and or breaking down below a lower band. So for example, I can tell right now is breaking down below a lower band. And also I can see here very quickly too that the volume's actually 20% lower than it was yesterday. So if you want to take a quick look at it, one quick note here, by the way, I've mentioned this before, but one change that they made in version 19 of MetaStock that I absolutely love is inside the Explorer reports here, is that once you run a scan like this, you can sort on whatever field that you want, right? So let's say, for example, like I've got all the securities that are breaking down below the lower band here in order. And once you actually double click on that first security, what that's going to do, it's going to open up that security. Then you can either minimize or close this dialog. Then you can plot whatever indicator that you want on the chart. So in this case, for example, like I'll plot, the turtle bands here. I'll go ahead and grab that and place that here on our chart. Just leave it at 20 and 10, that's okay. And then what this will do here is it'll plot that indicator here on your chart. But the beautiful thing is then when I click on my right pointing arrow, I go to that next security that was in that report, and very quickly I can cycle through all of those securities, for example, that are then breaking down below that lower band there. So that's a feature, again, like I say, in version 19 that I absolutely love, is you run your scan, you sort the data on anything that you want, you open up that first security, and then you just can cycle very quickly through your securities looking for the signals that are of interest to you. So that's what I've got here for you today. I hope that that's helpful. If you have any questions, make sure and let me know. Send me a message over in the chat window. I'll be happy to help you here. But if I could just take a couple minutes, I'll just run you through what we offer here at Learn MetaStock. Again, our website is up at learnmetastock.com. And the only thing we really do is we just help people, with their program in whatever facet that we can. We provide the training in a lot of different ways, but number one, if you go up here inside the website, for example, like if you click on this live classes, what we do is we do 3 live classes per week on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So for example, like today we had a Formula Writing 2 class. Tomorrow we're going to do an Expert Advisor Advanced class. But you can come to these classes, you can ask whatever types of questions that you want. It's a great way to actually quickly learn a lot more about the program and get your questions answered exactly how you want to get them, or whatever you need, I should say. We take questions, of course, during the class, but if you have other like general questions about the program, something that we didn't cover, just stick around at the end of the class. And then, of course, then we can help you at that time. Then in addition to that, probably where the majority of our customers actually spend their time is in this group right here, which is called the video library. Now, if you can't make our live classes, you can go to this live class recording section. And there you'll what we do is we post the previous week's live classes with recordings of them, so you'll never miss anything if you just can't make our live classes. But if you're just getting started with MetaStock or reintroducing yourself to MetaStock again, the area that I highly recommend everyone get started is this section right here, which is just called Getting Started. And take your time going through the introduction, part 1, part 2, the next step. And by doing that, that's going to give you a really good foundation of anywhere that you are or anything that you want to learn about the program. Because from there, then you can jump around. And let's say, for example, you want to learn more about system testing, for example. So here you can, of course, find out a lot more of the ins and outs about system testing, what to watch out for, what I like, what I don't like, different things like that. Another area that I think is actually fairly important is also talking about stops. I get a ton of question about stops, and for that reason, I've got some training videos just on different types of stops there as well. Now, one thing that you'll find actually really, really helpful, and that is when we actually take different trading ideas like this, what we'll do a lot of times is we'll create formulas for these different classes. And when we create these different formulas, when you click on the video itself, down here at the bottom, there's going to be a section right here underneath resources that you can click on a link and it'll download the formulas directly into your MetaStock program. And this is going to save you a massive amount of time and effort. We've already gone through the work of creating this stuff. And just by accessing this, again, like I say, this is going to plot it or basically install it directly into your program. So again, over here on the left-hand side, we've got, of course, videos on, using the Explorer, formula writing, all kinds of things. And probably one of the most popular areas is this section, though, called the trading strategies, where we take a trading strategy, again, from a book, a magazine, the internet, whatever the case is, and we just show you how to use that particular system. And then in order to download the formulas, again, we provide those available for you as a download. So here, for example, is the video on the turtle system that we just did here today. And if you want those formulas, just click on this download link and that'll put those formulas directly into your program there. Now, another thing here too that we do with a lot of the basic videos is we also have different things that'll help kind of reinforce what you've learned in the video as well. So for example, like I'll click on the introduction video here, and if you scroll down here, we've also got some quizzes here that if you click on this will just take you through a short, maybe 5-10 questions, for example, about that video, and just again help reinforce a little bit about what we were trying to teach at that point. So that can be another good learning tool there for you as well. So anyway, we've got a lot of different ways that we can help you, to say the least, and hopefully, if you haven't tried it before, hopefully you give us a try. And if you have, well, by the way, and if you have any questions that come up to you after today's presentation, you want to contact me directly, you can always just send me an email at admin@learnmetastock.com, and I'll be happy to help you that way. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Jeff.
All right, we do have a number of questions. So I'm going to go.
All right.
Yeah. Mervin says that the problem with turtle trading system is the drawdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Can you address this, please? Is what he said.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I created all those different types of trading strategies, right? So for example, getting out, for example, based off of just the lower bands, getting out based on the higher of the lower band versus the ATR, getting out just on the ATR. Those are just some different examples that I personally tried. But in addition to that, you can incorporate anything that you want. And then the fourth one, of course, was the optimization. So maybe if you just want to use the bands themselves, maybe look at adjusting those lower bands. And I agree with you. The default settings of just 20 and 10, for example, on a lot of securities just doesn't work well. And that's the whole point of being able to adjust those bands to hopefully lower that. So anyway, that's exactly what I was after as well.
It's a good answer. Logi wants to know if the expert signals repaint.
They do. So in the expert advisor, when you plot an expert advisor on your chart, one of the beautiful things about the expert advisor is that the signals regenerate as you get data. So you never have to go back and rerun a system or whatever. The expert advisor will automatically plot those signals there for you as it gets new data. Versus if you run like a system test and you plot the buy and sell signals from a system test, those are static symbols and they'll never update again unless you rerun the system test. But again, that's the advantage of creating an expert advisor and using that, because those signals will generate in real time.
And they might change during the day, but in the case of the turtle trader, they shouldn't change after the bar closes, correct?
Right. But yeah, and again, that of course, that's going to depend on your data, right? So if you're running real-time data and the bar is constantly changing, yeah, you might get a buy signal, might turn off, might get a buy signal, might turn off, and so forth, because the price might be bouncing between the bid and ask, whatever the case may be, right? But if you're looking at end of day data, yeah, that's never going to change. So it is going to vary, of course, depending on the type of data that you're using. But again, the beautiful thing about the expert advisor is that they will plot in real time.
Logi33 says, what is the best time frame to use?
Well, again, that's up to you. I basically showed you daily data, for example, today. But the nice thing about this is that this could be used on literally any time frame you want. If you want to use it on 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. And that's the whole purpose of running these different types of system tests, so you can ask those types of questions and get those types of answers that you're interested in. Because everybody's going to look at this differently, right? I mean, maybe half of our crowd are real-time traders and half of our crowd is end of day traders. So it just depends on what really works for you and what you feel comfortable with. But the whole idea is, that's one of the beautiful things about MetaStock. MetaStock's a toolbox, right? It allows you to ask whatever type of question you want, and it'll come back and tell you once you can figure out how to pose that question to the program itself. So that's the part that I absolutely love about this thing. So
let's see. Tony says, let's see, says that I think he's talking about you, but he says there's almost no better teacher. He might not be talking about you, but I thought you did a great job. So
well, I'll take it anyway. Thanks, Tony.
Yeah. We're going to take the compliment. Let's move on.
Go on to the next one.
Tony also says, just watch a couple of these MetaStock videos, great education. So where we go.
Yeah, we've spent a lot of time, putting this together. I was with MetaStock for 15 years, I think. And then, gosh, I mean, again, ever since then, 2008 to now, it's, what's that, 16 years? Holy cow. I mean, it's crazy how the time gets away from you. But yeah, I've been with us for quite a while, and I can't guarantee or promise you, much, to say the least. But one thing I can do is that I can save you a massive amount of time and effort and frustration, by actually going through our training. And then, of course, asking questions and coming to classes and everything else. I can help you out in a big way if this is really what you'd like to learn how to do.
He says, I like the way you talk, Kevin. Smiley face. All right. He does ask a question about if you can use your own live stock data in MetaStock. And no, you can't, Tony. You can't use your broker data. It's designed to work with the MetaStock, or the MetaStock Zenith feed for real time, and Reuters data link for end of day. And that's where you're going to be able to get the data from. So there you go. All right, that's all the questions I have for you. I'm going to talk a little bit about the special offer that you've allowed us to do, Kevin. Is that
great?
Okay?
Thanks again,
Jeff.
Jeff.
Questions, everybody, too. I appreciate them. Actually, let me check GoToWebinar real quick. Yeah, we're good with questions. All right, thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
All right, go ahead and make me the presenter. We'll go back to this picture of Kevin. And I just want to kind of reiterate what's included with this. We always talk about MetaStock being a toolbox, right? It's been rated the best software in its price category for 31 years in a row. Powered by, the London Stock Exchange Group data, a data feed that kind of competes with Bloomberg. But like any toolbox, depends on how well you know the tool, is how well it's going to work for you. And I almost encourage anybody to kind of do Learn MetaStock, especially if you're using Learn MetaStock. It's got all the videos, the basic MetaStock videos to help you get started, the expert advisor video, system testers. I actually liked how I showed the videos on stops. Stops are such an important thing to use when you're using any type of a methodology. And I kind of like the way Kevin kind of comes and approaches it. On the system, he's got the Turtle Trader, and he develops the indicators for it. He talks about them, and he's very objective in terms of the way he goes through things, in terms of the systems that he covers. But as part of Learn MetaStock, there's actually a library of different formulas that are available. 21 complete systems, 9 different templates, 62 different indicators, 14 expert advisors, the system tests, the explorations, and that's just all included with the service. So normally, if you're a new subscriber to Learn MetaStock, you'd pay $99 a month, and that's the subscription rate for all of the videos, plus all the live webinars and all the stuff that Kevin does to kind of keep things going over there. What we're doing as a new customer special is if you subscribe for a month, we'll give you the second and third month for free. And it's a great offer. We're kind of coming up into the holidays. I don't know if you have a lot of downtime during the holidays, but I do, and it would be a good time to be able to maybe sit down and do some training and maybe pick up some better use of the tools. So if you want to kind of take advantage of that offer, it's $99 for the next 3 months. It's about $33 per month. You go to metastock.com/learnmetastock 3-for-1. You can call 800-882-3040. Or you can also chat online with us, and we can help you get set up at metastock.com/saleschat. So I think that's everything that we've got for you. Kevin, thank you for coming. Thanks for talking about the Turtle Trader system. I talk a little bit about the Turtle Trader system, and I think your story and the way you kind of talk about it is a little better. So good job with that. I want to thank all of you guys for coming. It's good to have you. Thank you for being here. Let us know if there's anything that you need. Try this out. $99, it'll get you going for the next 3 months. If you like it, great. If it helps you learn stuff, it will. Great. Thanks for coming, everybody. We'll see you at the next one.